Man, have you seen the price of silver today? We are pushing like $33.10 last time I looked. Man, it is moving. We're having dollar a day moves here. Thursday, Friday, today. Goodness. Remember what the old webbot said. When you see $5 a day moves, good night. Good night economy, good night everything else. It's going to be blatant obvious at that point. But anyways, I'm going to have to do a whole other video on silver. But this video is about a potential webbot hit, at least in the making. And based off of what someone wrote to me, one of my YouTube subscribers, and I think it's a she. She said, well, I'm pretty sure it's a she. Anyways, well, and this is from a link she has. Wildlife officials say that they have no idea what is killing thousands of ducks and geese along Lake Erie and the Maumee River. When they first discovered the trend a few weeks ago, only a few birds were infected. As of Friday, around 200 birds have been linked to the mysterious illness. Infected birds simply throw their heads back and lose their motor skills before they die. No one knows how far it could spread. This may be something that's not at all going to affect people, but it may be. And we need to figure it out to know what's going on. That's what she said, that last part. Or no, that's not what she said. This is still part of the article. This may be something that's not at all going to affect people, but it may be. And we need to figure it out to know what's going on, said Nature's Nursery's Laura Zitzilberger. Anyways, so that's interesting. They throw their heads back, lose their motor skills, and basically dive bomb and die. That's what people have said they witnessed. Not necessarily the heads going back, but they've seen flock of birds just all together, boom, right into the ground, just like a mass suicide, just incredible. So, this is the latest webbot report from, I believe, January 25th, 2010, or excuse me, 2011. And there's some interesting stuff in here, I'm going to say, that kind of ties into that. Although I'm going to start one paragraph earlier because it mentions the whole event, HOLE, that he was talking about. And from what I understand, it stands for something such as, hold on, let's re-examine. Hold on, let's examine a little further. I think that's kind of what he alluded to in an email that I was talking with him about. And I'm not sure how it's going to make sense in the future. But anyways, I'm going to start with that paragraph, even though it's not really has to do with the birds. The data sets show that Western Europe, including Ireland and Greater Britain, will be swept by unseasonal wind-driven storms much over 2011. The data sets are filling with aspects attributes for wind-creased crops and flooded croplands. Now, wind-creased crops is probably what you might think of as like a crop circle. Not necessarily a crop circle, but when you go to crop circle and the crops basically are flattened down and, you know, look like someone kind of bent them over. That's what a wind-creased crop is going to do. It's going to fold over, which of course can ruin the crop. And flooded croplands, as well as other early warning words of a bad harvest for 2011. Further, Europe is described by the data as being separated by a water line that has implications for both drought and fires to be rapidly felt when the nominal summer arrives. The descriptors would seem to be painting a picture of Europe split from northwest to southeast, with the western half exceptionally wet, buffeted by storms, and the eastern half all the way up to Finland, as hot airs are drawn north by aberrant jet stream winds and exceptionally low pressure zones in the far north. The data sets forecast that neither of these conditions will be good for food supplies and increased demands for foods as 2011 progresses will become a centrally felt / realized meme at a planetary level. Again, we note that whole needs to be considered, H-O-L-E, capital letters. Again, we note that whole needs to be considered, and he never really specified what exactly whole is, other than once it finally manifests, it'll be obvious that we all know what he was talking about. Anyways, as part of the Terra entity's rapid and somewhat alarming, this is where the point of this video starts, okay? As part of the Terra entity's rapid, let me stop. Remember the heads, the birds, heads go back, lose all motor control skills, die, fly off into the ground and die. As part of Terra Entity's rapid and somewhat alarming growth of aspect attribute sets, a group of linguistics under the archetype of toroid that shows multiple magnetic poles will form/appear around the Earth, and these will cause chaos with all forms of electromagnetic devices. The aspect attribute sets include descriptors for failures and even explosions as multiple magnetic poles appear. These will apparently just pop into existence one day and will be a painful part of the environment from that point forward. The painful subset is extensively cross-linked over to both the global pop and populous US of A entity, where the effects subset is hugely diverse. The effects include personal human pains, as in nerve vibrations, that will induce some crippling pain. Further painful subsets are within larger types of effects such as trains, in other words, electrical diesel trains. The things on train tracks, that's what I'm talking about. And newer trains, and that's newer as in, the last 20 plus years, 30 years, even maybe longer. A diesel electric train, actually, a diesel engine runs an electric motor on the train, and the electric motor is the big bad boy that actually pushes the train down the track. But it needs electricity, of course, to run the electric motor, and that comes from a diesel generator, basically, is how you could look at that. That's what he's talking about. Further painful subsets are within larger types of effects, such as trains, electrical diesels, planes of all types, and automobiles failing, as well as electrical devices of a wide variety that will become operational failures in the sense of not being accurate or working only part of the time. Again, trains do deliver large amounts of goods across the country, including foods and stuff. So do diesel trucks. Not that diesel matters. It could be gasoline engines too, because they all use computer systems to run. Back, 20 plus years ago, 30 years ago, everything was, actually more than 20 years ago, things were carbureted. Cars were carbureted. Trucks were carbureted. They didn't have a lot of electronics on them. The electronic ignition systems of today weren't electronic ignition systems then. They were simply mechanical devices that had a thing known as points inside the distributor cap, which is where all the spark goes to each cylinder of your car. And these points, as a distributor would turn inside, there's a mechanical device, and it would push this thing called points, and it would off on, off on, off on really quick, but it was mechanical. And every time it was off on, it would fire a spark, and the little rotor inside the distributor would point towards one of the spark plug wires, basically, and fire off, perfectly timed. They don't do that anymore. It's all electronic. So if your fuel pump in your car dies today, that's electronic. Even though it's in your gas tank, you're done. You're not going anywhere. Can't pump fuel, you're finished. If the car's computer or brain, ECU, etc., dies, you're done. You're not going anywhere, even if your fuel pump works, even if the ignition system works. It doesn't matter. The computer's shot, you're done. Same can be said with the rest of it. If the rest of it's working fine, fuel pump's fine, the computer's fine, but your ignition system goes out, done. You're dead in the water. It would be real nice to have an older vehicle right about now. Like 1980s type of older vehicle, mid to early 80s, you're going to find a lot of carbureted devices, or carbureted cars and trucks, but some of them even had partial electronic systems that, would suck to have, such as the ignition system. Anyways, back on track here. There are other subsets within the supporting chains of toroid energy field misbehaving, point to the sudden appearance of the multiple and wandering south poles as being casual for continuing bird and other animal deaths. The image coming from the detail layers about the wicked souths, or the south poles, point also to human brain dysfunctions and body system failures. The details include descriptors of impacts into magnetic walls and internal body problems. These sets within the global pop and populous US of A entity point toward the surreal, stumbling, drooling, standing oblivion that causes humans to become obstacles to movement. Let me read that last one. The details include descriptors of impacts into magnetic walls. Now let me think about that. impact into a magnetic wall. Is that like a force field's up? Such powerful magnetic fields that you're walking and it feels like you just hit a wall, but there's nothing there? I mean, is that what that means? The details include descriptors of impacts into magnetic walls. Or does that just mean you're fine and you walk through a magnetic wall and all of a sudden your phone quits and your laptop dies and now, they don't work or something? I don't know. And internal body problems. These sets within the global pop and populous USFA entity point toward the surreal stumbling, drooling, standing oblivion that causes humans to become obstacles to movement. The idea is that the toroid internal realignment is going to generate field strengths at high enough levels to cause internal thinking disruptions and cognitive impairment. And again, head moving back of a bird, losing all motor skills and dying and falling and dying. All a bunch of them all at the same time. Makes you think that, wonder about that. Interesting that that's in the Webbot report, isn't it? The Terra entity data is pointing toward the toroid changes marking the point of no return that will be referenced as such on the mainstream media. The references within the great many stories in the mainstream media over 2011 that will be focused on the Terra changes to the toroid alterations may be lost in the totality of the Earth change stories. So while they may catch on that there's these toroid things and the wandering South Poles and that causing some problems, there will be so many other important Earth change stories that cause massive problems for humanity that this may just be a little nonsense story buried within the deeper stories of other big powerful Earth changes such as huge earthquakes or huge floods or that kind of thing. This is important in itself, but they're saying only those of the aware observer who's watching all the news channels, all the mainstream alternative media sites like us, we're going to catch these things, we're going to easily see them, and of course me and other people will be posting them on YouTube as we catch them, which is nice to have people as subscribers, because like this girl, I think this girl that I just read that part to you about from YouTube, sent me that, oh, check this story out about Lake Erie and these birds throwing their heads back. I didn't know that, I didn't find that. That person found that and sent it to me. So it's like I got all these people working for me, which I don't, we're all working for each other. But when you all talk about this and you've got, I've got like 1,200 something subscribers, man, that's a lot of people who could potentially find something that none of us have found and say, oh, look at this, check this out. That's all it takes. And then I put it on my video, now 1,200 people have instant access to what one person showed me. And now I'm making this video, and the same thing applies because of this bird story. I didn't hear about these birds throwing their heads back, losing motor skills, and dying until this person sent that to me. That's really cool. So, it says, some of the Terra entity stories making the news this year will include sinkholes gone amok. The Terra entities continue, or the Terra entity continues to build supporting sets for sinkholes that will consume large buildings. Some of this language has already manifest. However, the growth rates of the supporting sets outpaces any appearance of the linguistic within the mainstream media by about 4 to 1. The sinkhole subset includes aspect attribute sets for critical roads and telecom buildings and cell towers and water tanks and lakes and rivers to be swallowed or consumed or lost. In the rivers and lakes supporting sets, the sinkholes are to alter the course of rivers and drain whole lakes in 2011. Much of the growth patterns are in the closer edge of the longer-term value set, so this would place the more dramatic of these sinkholes swallowing things out towards the end of this fall, or in other words, very, very late 2011. The details include what a smallish brown-red river in the Americas will change course toward the sinkhole, and will thereby affect human transportation both on water and over land. The sinkholes are also forecast to drain a sizable lake so fast that the complete draining can be watched on TV. Further, the cross links over to both the press or news entity and the powers that were entity terminate in a number of sets for a dramatic reduction in the power of the propaganda press shortly after this temporal marker appears. So once we see the massive sinkhole phenomenon, which you probably already thought was last year, no, that was just a walk in the park. Once these things happen and you see the sinkholes swallowing rivers and lakes and buildings, that's the temporal marker for the news propaganda press to start losing their grip on humanity of lying to us and people catching on. That's a good sign. That's what he's talking about. So it says that the data set suggests that the dramatic power drop of the propaganda press will itself be discussed and widely, but only very shortly, briefly, as humans will have just too much pressing concerns to devote time to trivialities. There'll be a lot more important things going on than what the press is or isn't telling you, even though everyone will realize it's just nothing but nonsense coming from the press. So that's all I got for you. This is very interesting, and I need to do another video on silver right now because silver is starting to explode. And from what I understand, the 28th of January, February, or no, was it January? I think it's February. Yeah. February 28th is the end of the in other words, the futures contracts expire, and they have that's day one of when they need to start cleaning up the futures contract. Either deliver me the silver, or I'm taking the contract and I'm selling it off to the next bozo who doesn't want physical silver, and we just want to try to make cash money. And that will last approximately 30 days of, setting things straight. So it'll be very, very, very interesting right now to see out of the 53,000 future contracts that are out there, who is demanding delivery and who is just deciding, well, I don't want to demand delivery. I'll just do what we always been doing for the last 20, 30 years, and I'll just sell the contract off to the next guy. I made, tens of thousands of dollars on this contract. I'm happy. I'm just going to close out. Or are a lot of people catching on saying, you know what? Here's the rest of the money for my contract. I think I would like to buy some real silver now. Thanks. Who knows? Or another possibility is that they take the contract, sell it, make thousands of dollars, not enough to buy out the contract, but just make thousands and thousands of dollars, and then they turn around and go to the local coin dealer and buy, a few thousand, several $1,000s worth of silver coins, which is fine with me because it's still taking the silver physical demand out of the marketplace one way or the other. Anyways, I'm going to do some more videos later on. One will be on the silver, and that's all I got for you now. So, and I'm getting another HD camera because this Vado HD creative camera, the audio sucks. I know I've had a lot of complaints that can you make it louder? Can you make it louder? I can't. So it's time for a different pocket flip cam, whatever. I saw one on CompUSA that looks pretty good. I'm gonna run over there at lunchtime and get it. And anyways, I'll talk to you guys later.